Welcome back to our podcast, Don't Chew With Your Mouth Open. Thank you for listening and subscribing. Those of you who've been watching our episodes will know we're on a road to 1,000 subscribers. So please share, click like, and subscribe if you're here for the first time. For those of you who've consistently followed us, thank you so much for supporting us, and we hope you continue to enjoy our content. Welcome to our episode of our podcast, Don't Chew With Your Mouth Open, where we'll discuss business, economics, finance, investments, and wealth creation for the global south. Recently, we've been looking at the rise of gold. Gold prices have soared and have gone up, and they've been substantial. Most people say, why is that? When it's a piece of metal, a mineral that's dug from the ground and stored somewhere, it doesn't necessarily have trade value as it used to have historically. That's because gold has developed a sense of trust. We trust it because we know that somebody on the other side is willing to give us certain goods or services in exchange for it. And it's the same with other currencies. They provide you with a sense of trust. What is a dollar? What is a rand? What is a pound? It's a piece of paper. But in reality, it is a communication of trust. We trust that we would be able to exchange that piece of paper for goods or services. And we also trust that somebody on the other side is willing to receive it in exchange for providing us with goods or services. So the entire economic system relies on trust. Trust that we will deliver value and that you will deliver value. And so when a currency continues to be devalued, it means that the value and the trust that people have in it is continuously eroding. Yes, there are ways in which currencies are devalued to make trade more easy, or to increase volume of trade between countries, or to attract new customers, and so on and so forth. But fundamentally, trust is the bedrock of any exchange of value. Now, what happens when trust is broken? When trust is broken, we then have to work hard to repair. And you can see this with a lot of countries where the trust is broken with the currency, where people no longer believe that it is a store of value. The value of that currency tumbles. People move to more trustworthy currencies. A typical example is where countries move to the US dollar away from another currency. Another example is to give you a view of the differences between how people trust one country over another. So the rand dollar exchange rate is in an essence a view of trust. Now when we break trust, it's very hard to repair. You have to consistently prove over a long period of time that what you did historically was not who you are, but a very bad and negative lapse of judgment. If you make poor decisions economically, privately, personally, and you violate trust that people have put in you, you have to work very, very hard to regain that trust. This is why most economies in the world that have accepted the US dollar have hardly returned to their own domestic currency, because trust has been broken. Value that used to be held in that domestic currency has eroded. So people value things in a trustworthy currency. The same happens in our lives, in our relationships. When trust is broken, your word loses value. People no longer believe what you say. People no longer have confidence that who you say you are is actually who you are. As a result, you have to sustainably prove over a long period of time that you are who you say you are, and you will do what you say you will do. And then trust is rebuilt. Similarly to your own economic well-being, it takes time to develop trust. When you fail or default on your payments, when you fail and default on your loans, the credit rating goes down. Credit rating is a view on trust. Those who lend money no longer believe you're worth being lent to. So it takes time to rebuild that credit so that you can then be trusted again to borrow. And this applies across every sector of life. So the question we should continue to ask ourselves is, are we trustworthy? Is our economy trustworthy? Is our personal life trustworthy? Our finances trustworthy? That is the bedrock of economics. We know that we can exchange value, and the determinant of that value exchange is pre-agreed. Historically, it was gold, and then we moved to currencies. Now there's digital currencies like Bitcoin that are used to exchange value globally. Again, it comes down to a simple thing: trust. Does the person on the other side believe that the exchange of value is happening when you give them a rand? And if we are unable to continuously and consistently prove that, we struggle. As a result, we have a central bank. The central bank is in essence a guardian of trust. They will ensure that the money we use to exchange on a day-to-day basis remains a store of value. And how do they do that? They do that by managing how much of it is in circulation and what it costs for us to borrow it. If they reduce how much is in circulation through the interest rates, making it more expensive to borrow, it becomes and maintains its value. When the economy does better, inflation is lower, they can reduce the cost of money by reducing the interest rates and ensuring there's more money in the system through lending. That relationship between us as economic actors and the central bank is the guardian of trust of our currency. They ensure that when you receive X amount of rands, you know it's worth something. When you put it in your pocket and you take it out of your pocket a year later, it is worth something. And that relationship is trust. The Reserve Bank's role, as we've said, is to maintain that. And they work very hard to ensure that. And we, as individuals who live in the economy each and every day, must then continue to display that trust. When we deal in our interactions, in our dealings, the money we produce at the store has value because it is backed by a trustworthy institution, which is the government of South Africa. Now, if we look at the credit rating, what the price at which our governments borrow money from international institutions, it also is a communication of trust. The credit rating of South Africa communicates to the globe that when South Africa borrows money, they are able to pay back. And therefore, there's confidence. The more confidence global institutions have in our ability to repay, the more our rating goes up. Now, there are rating agencies. And what are the rating agencies responsible for? They're responsible to communicate our trustworthiness to the world via our rating. Who then engages with the rating agencies? National Treasury. So National Treasury engages with the rating agencies to ensure that they can prove that they continuously can meet their obligations. And when the government meets its obligations, then the credit ratings has evidence to improve our rating. And when our rating improves, the cost of our borrowing goes down. Similarly to your own personal finances. When you walk into a bank, the bank goes to a credit rating. They look at Experian and any other credit score provider. That provider is communicating to the financial institution your trustworthiness, your behavior historically with the money you have borrowed. And that then communicates the cost of borrowing. Because if you are more trustworthy, the cost of borrowing goes down. If you are less trustworthy, the cost of borrowing goes up, and sometimes borrowing is non-existent. So again, guard your trust, because how you prove yourself to be trustworthy communicates value, not just economically, but also socially. It matters how you conduct yourself. And we are here to assist, to empower you. So, how do I then become more trustworthy? The first goal is to prove to the financial system that you can repay what you have borrowed. If you've got large debts and you're struggling to repay, there is no shame in entering programs like Debt Review, where you can consolidate your debt into a meaningful repayable amount. Those things begin to build trust within the system. They begin to show that you are willing to tackle the difficult things of repaying what you owe. For those of you with a good credit rating, manage it well. Don't over borrow. Don't go beyond your means. Keep it healthy. For those of you who don't have credit and are living lives where there's a lot of surplus in your bank account, how you spend communicates to the bank your trustworthiness. The banks now have technology to monitor your spending habits. Where do you spend? How do you spend? How do you save? All of those factors factor into whether or not you're trustworthy. Even if you have more than enough, if you spend an outsized amount on certain things in our society, the banks and financial institutions now have that data. And when you then enter into those institutions, they have a view of you in terms of trustworthiness. So, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is be trustworthy. Be trustworthy in life. Be trustworthy with your finances. Be trustworthy in your relationships. Let your words be your bonds. What you commit to and sign on a piece of paper, let it be held to that. Let it be green when you're repaying, not red because you're missing repayments. If you go through a difficult period and can no longer meet repayments, go directly to the financial institution, communicate directly with them about your struggle and your problem, and they will find a pathway to resolve your issue. Why we struggle is because we don't take our trust seriously. Engage, confront, deal with, become a person who's trustworthy. Your actions, financially and otherwise, will determine your future. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time.